I believe that you have got more power in your golf swing. You just need to know how to unlock it, and that's exactly what we're going to show you how to do in this video.
Perfect.
So longer drives, hitting the ball further from the tee will generally make the game a little bit easier because it will give you shorter irons into the greens, it will give you shorter putts, and provided we can control that driver, it's pretty much always going to result in lower scores. And that's exactly what we're going to do for you in this particular video. Now, just before we get started, this video actually started off as being a video on 4 things that can really help senior golfers, or golfers out there who feel like their flexibility isn't what it used to be, or their rotation is limited, and they don't feel like they've got the range of motion that they used to have. And as I started to plan the video and I started to think about the 4 things I was going to discuss, I realized that actually these 4 tips can help anyone out there who just wants to add a few extra yards to their tee shots. And obviously, you know, if we look at the professional game, Bryson DeChambeau at the moment is kind of showcasing just how much of an advantage that can be. Now, he's taken it to the extreme where I'm afraid not going to get you to hit the ball the distances that he achieves, but we are going to give you a few things that can really help you add a little bit of distance to your drive. And this video is going to be especially useful if you are in that senior golfer category where you feel like your flexibility isn't quite what it used to be. So we're going to do, as I say, 4 things. We're going to look at something in setup, which is really important. We're going to look at 2 things that are really, really important in your backswing. And then we're going to just look at something very simple through impact, which is more of a tip than a drill. The kind of main part of these videos are 3 things that we're going to do: setup and backswing. So let's start off with our address position. Our address position is vitally important because it's going to predict or influence how we are able to move our body. So what I'd love you to do is make sure that when you take your setup to the ball, both of your feet are turned out and flared outwards by a good amount. When we flare the feet outwards, like I'm demonstrating here, it really opens up our hips and it allows them to rotate much more freely. The more we turn our feet square or even point them in, it really restricts movement in the hips. Now, if you're someone who struggles for flexibility, we really want to encourage those hips to turn a little bit more. So flaring the feet out is absolutely vitally important. Now, the second thing we're going to get you to do in setup is preset your head position. So I'm going to actually feel as if my head rotates, so it's a little bit more over my right side, but I'm obviously still going to be looking at the golf ball. Now, why is that important? Well, when we kind of lose flexibility, we generally lose that throughout our whole body, and your neck is one area where you really will lose flexibility. So if I'm focused on the ball and my head doesn't move from that position, it's really difficult to rotate my shoulders a good amount. If I want to rotate my shoulders a good amount, my head is probably going to have some amount of rotation with it. And again, even the best players in the world, we see anything between 10 and 15 degrees of head rotation in that backswing. To make this a little bit simpler for you, we're going to just preset that. So as I flare my feet and I preset my head more to the right side, whilst this is a static position and we're not moving the golf club, I've created a situation where I'm more likely to create a better rotation. And that's really, really key. If we want to add rotation, we want to add speed, we want to add distance, we effectively need to get the golf club to travel further around our body. And what we're starting to do with our setup here is encourage that to happen. The second thing I really want you to focus on is your lead heel and your trail leg. Now, the things that we're going to focus on here can only happen if we've ticked off that first point. But in the backswing, what I really want you to try and focus on is that your trail leg is going to, as you swing back, it's going to straighten. So the flex that it had at the start is going to get removed. You'll also notice as I do that, that the lead knee increases in flex, and they work in opposites. As the trail leg straightens, the lead knee increases in flex. So as I'm focusing on this leg losing flex, I actually want to feel as if my lead heel will slightly lift from the ground. So as you can see that there. So the heel lifting encourages this knee to move inwards behind the ball. And it's allowed to do that because my trail leg is starting to lose flex. Again, all we're really trying to do here is look at movements which encourage rotation, give us a greater range of motion, because you know, those golfers who do fall into that senior category, generally speaking, their flexibility, as we said, isn't quite what it used to be, and that reduces range of motion. And when we reduce range of motion, we often reduce club head speed. But there are things that we can do as we're going through here, which can really boost that rotation, boost that speed, and get you hitting the distances that you really want to. So as I'm making my backswing, I've got my good starting position, and I'm really going to focus very much on leg straightens, heel lifts. Okay, so before we go through points 3 and points 4, let's go ahead and hit a drive, just focusing on those initial thoughts. Feet very flared, head is going to be preset to the right, leg straightens, heel lifts. So those are the first 2 points that I really want you to focus on, which are going to help you with a little bit of rotation. Now the third point is really just to have a very, very relaxed lead arm. A relaxed lead arm means that when we start to get to the end of our shoulder rotation, the lead arm may well start to just flex or bend a little bit, and that's absolutely fine, because again, all that does is it helps my hands travel a little further, and it helps the golf club travel a little further. And what we know from research and studies is that if the club head travels a little further, we're more likely to generate speed at the bottom because we've got more time to generate that speed. So I think we're sort of past those days now of where we're convinced that the lead arm has to stay dead straight, because it absolutely doesn't. Many great golfers out there have some slight bend in that lead arm, and the key term there would be slight bend. You know, you're not going to get the most out of your driver swing if that lead arm is collapsing down like this. Very often that lead arm collapses like that when the body doesn't rotate. Point number 2 we've just gone through is really going to get you to have a really good body rotation. So when we've got a really good body rotation, a relaxed lead arm just might mean that it slightly bends at the top, which is absolutely fine, because that's going to give me another foot, maybe foot and a half of travel in the club head, which really helps me down at the bottom to create that speed. It also means that we are keeping the arms fairly relaxed, and relaxed arms are absolutely key to creating speed down at impact. So what's the fourth point? Well, the fourth point is kind of an idea and a tip, and not really a drill, but it's just to have some practice swings where we're really trying to create some speed in the golf club with our hands and our arms. So whilst you might be a golfer whose flexibility has reduced, you should still have the ability to create some speed through the hands and the arms. And if I was to take my setup to this golf ball and just tee that ball up a little bit higher, without really using much body rotation at all, I should be able to hit that ball a pretty decent distance, because I'm very, very good and very well versed in creating some speed with my hands and arms. Tension through the arms, tension through the wrists, tension through the grip will absolutely rob you of speed. It will rob you of feel. You're not going to be as aware of where the club head is, and it's really just not going to end well with the driver. So lots of little practice swings where we're actually just focused on creating some speed with the hands and the arms. And you'll notice what my arms are doing there, folding both sides of my body. I've got trail arm folding, wrists setting, lead arm folding, wrists setting. What we don't want to do is start to muscle the club through and be very tight in our arms, or have our lead arm buckling this way. Often that's because we have too much pressure through the hand, too much pressure through the wrist, too much tension through the forearms, and we don't have enough freedom of the golf club. So we can create some really nice movements going back, but we can undo all of those movements with too much tension and almost holding on to the club too much, being a little bit scared to release it, scared to put speed in. I want you to have lots of freedom and really be positive about putting some speed through that golf club into the ball. So if we can start to create a good setup, a better backswing movement, a relaxed lead arm, and really focusing on putting some speed in the club head, we should be able to get you back some of the distance that you potentially have lost as your flexibility is reduced. And like I said at the start, these tips are not necessarily for senior golfers. They will help anybody out there who wants a little bit more speed. So feet flared, head rotated, and I would not have that drive back. It's just going to miss the green on the right, but that's absolutely perfect. On most holes, that's going to be in the fairway. So unlock distance, Get your setup right, get your backswing right, soften your lead arm, create some speed with your hands and arms, and it's especially going to be helpful for anyone who's just falling into that senior category out there. Thanks for watching. User stuff is down below. You've got the like button down there, you've got the comments box, and also that is the subscribe link up there. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I'd love you to do so. Hit that, it is absolutely free. It just means you'll be notified each time I release a video, and hopefully they can help you play some better golf and enjoy your time on the golf course just that little bit more. Thanks for watching.